Angry Roodepoort community members are demanding answers following the tragic murder of a young boy in the Fleurhof complex. Now, the community is calling for all locked doors in the apartment block to be opened as they continue to seek answers surrounding the child's death. Let's now speak to Dr. Shaheda Omar, who's the Teddy Bear Foundation Director, who's joining us this evening. Dr. Omar, good evening to you and thank you so much for your time. This is absolutely shocking, and the community thinking that for them, this apartment block would be a safer place for a child, yet here we are.
Indeed, I think it's not only shocking, it's so disturbing, and it's actually violating the rights of children's safety and protection, their basic constitutional rights. We find and we listen to the daily news coverage of 3 children being murdered on an average daily. Unfortunately, here's another life lost, an innocent child who has been vulnerable, defenseless, unable to protect himself, and so many questions to be answered. And within a confined space, as you say, where there's been a closed community and nobody can speak to the actual events or before, during and after. Unfortunately, this is really unacceptable. It's heinous. It's, besides being unlawful, it's the most gross violation committed against a child. And the message that it sends to other children and other families is even more distressing because people realize the vulnerability. And of course, we are faced with a community with high levels of anxiety, fear, panic, and dread.
And growing up, we always used to say it takes a village to raise a child, and everybody was involved in your life as a child, whether it's a neighbor, and your parents, if they're not home, they could leave you with the neighbors and come back from work and pick you up from there. Where did we lose it?
Well, I think if we just look at how we've advanced technologically, I think if we just look at the progression, there's been a lot of progression in terms of our lifestyle, accumulation of material things. The advent of technology certainly has influenced us as well. But I think the most important thing here is we've lost that spirit of Ubuntu. I think Justice Erasmus in the Jocelyn Smith spoke so clearly to that, about going back to basics, the fundamentals of your child is my child. And the fact, like you say, it takes a village to raise a child. So if we want to ensure the safety and protection of children, each and every one of us have to make that collective, concerted effort to look out not only for my child, not only for your child, but for each and every child. I think that's the most important thing, where we need to make it our business. Why is the child walking on his or her own? Why are they walking awkwardly? What is going on? Is there an altercation there? Is there some sign of bullying there? Is there drugging going on? All of that needs to be something that we all need to be concerned about. Until we do not adopt that kind of attitude and ethos in society, we're not going to be able to rely totally on law enforcement, your community policing forums, or other officials out there. It needs to be a concerted, collective, whole of society effort.
And just before we take some of our viewer comments, this is happening during Child Protection Month. One would think that year in, year out, we'll actually have different conversations around this time. And one wonders if all of, some of the cases are in the spotlight because it's this month, but then we go back to business as usual, where it seems like it's a country that's overwhelmed by what's going on and seemingly not even knowing how to fix this particular pandemic, if one can even put it that way.
Absolutely. I think you raise such valid points here. And the one most important thing is that we need to appeal to the presidency, to Honorable our President Cyril Ramaphosa. Child protection and child safety needs to become a national emergency. We cannot continue to allow this to escalate, to spiral. We are seeing so many lives being lost. And as you so beautifully articulated, year in, year out, month in, month out, we seem to be talking about the same thing. Why? Because we continue to do the same thing. And because we are not synchronizing our efforts, we are not working together, the different government departments, civil society, your faith-based organizations, your other CBOs, we all need to be working together. We need to look at pieces of legislation, policy, protocols, bringing in education. One single body cannot protect children. And I think that is where we're failing short.
And especially because, I mean, you think about 2011, for example, we were seeing that green paper on families. And yet here we are, and we're talking about the difficulties in families then. And it doesn't seem like things have changed to where we are finding ourselves. And I want us to take some of our viewer comments just before we continue with our conversation and to see how they are reacting to this gruesome find of this 11-year-old child who went missing and found dead in Fleurhof. So what is saying, Tabela, good evening, Mezwane, Waratembi, and the rest of the team. Hi, it's a pleasure seeing you again. Thank you so much. It's very disturbing and frustrating because we don't know who is behind all this missing of kids, but it's a high time that the perpetrators should rot in jail if found. Nazim, good evening, Bongs and Tembi. The killing of children in this country needs serious intervention from police and communities. It's getting out of hand. Pule, it's high time that community policing forums be more active in our communities and not depend on the SABC to combat crime. Dennis, this incident highlights the need for continued efforts to ensure child safety and prevent crimes against children in our communities. And Dr. Omar, I want to stay with something that has been said there by one of our viewers, is that when you look at these particular cases, it does seem that in some of them, the perpetrators are not found. Is that, possibly one of the reasons why we sometimes see them becoming emboldened because they know that they may not be found?
I think that you once again beautifully articulated. The reality is that it's not a deterrent, because often perpetrators realize that the forensic or the crime investigation and the processes that are followed are not always timeous, are not always diligent, are not always speedily conducted, and due to no fault of law enforcement. I think I don't want to tarnish law enforcement because they are undercapacitated, they are under-resourced, they are under-skilled. There needs to be tightening of the nuts and bolts, specialization of skills, ensuring that we have a rapid risk and task team assigned specifically for children who go missing, for children who disappear. And if that, the protocols are very clear and people are equipped, trained to respond speedily, we will find that perpetrators will be brought to book, that in terms of forensic investigations, it will be conducted with more rigor. And I think with that kind of rigor, there's a less likelihood of perpetrators running into the sunset and disappearing without being brought to book.
Dr. Omar, just before I let you go, I don't want us to lose sight of this, even as a nation, as we report on this particular story. There's a mother now who is having to come to terms with such a monumental loss. What do you say to her?
What do you say to a mother? It's a fate worse than death when you've lost your child. There's no words that can comfort her or calm her or even reassure her. The only thing we can do is actually work on finding the perpetrator and bringing the perpetrator to justice so that this perpetrator is not in a position to violate other children. All we can do is pray for this mother, for her family, and pray for this lost loved one. This is a vacuum that she'll never be able to fill. This hole in her heart will remain forever. All we can just pray is for God to ease this burden, give her comfort and strength.
And it's very difficult. One can only, begin to imagine what she's going through. But thank you so much for your time this evening. And certainly we hope that the perpetrator or even perpetrators will in fact be caught here. That was the Teddy Bear Foundation Director, Dr. Shaheda Omar.